Hello, good morning. Welcome to today's midweek market analysis over here. So as usual, what we're gonna do is to walk you through some of the charts over here and to highlight some of the opportunities available. Okay. So let's start off with the dollar index. Now the dollar index has indeed did a pullback, and right now we're currently testing around that 50 and 6 money pullback from this swing low, from this swing high to this swing low. So usually when we see kind of like obvious three-wave pullback coming towards the 50 and 618, we do anticipate some kind of reaction back down. And therefore right now we're looking at a little bit of a short-term bearishness, and we're anticipating that market may indeed pull back after this move back towards like 101.00, which is a very strong psychological number obviously, and towards 100.6. Okay, so short-term temporary, the dollar, we're expecting a little bit of pullback to the downside. But of course, we do have the NFP coming in on Friday. Okay, so perhaps the market may be a little bit quiet for today and tomorrow as traders are eventually still building up into NFP, right? Then we have the euro. Okay, so euro here is setting up pretty nicely, I would say, going into NFP. Now, if for the remaining part of the week, today, tomorrow, and first half of Friday, if you can see price comes up correctively towards the area of 1.1055 to 1.1080, okay, essentially respecting this as a corrective structure. Then going into NFP, we may get a very nice little sell trade to the downside with a target at 1.0895 to 1.0835, right? Which again confluence very nicely with some support area in the past. Right? So we do have a potential sell setup here, but this trade you may need to be just a little bit patient building into NFP, right? And again, you of course need to wait for a prerequisite, which is price needs to obviously goes up correctively, okay, and not cut impulsive to the upside, right? Now, the other one over here is pound dollar, right? So pound dollar, quite similar to the euro in terms of the overall structure and direction, but the details of this is slightly different. So euro, we can't get a very nice little clear corrective structure in terms of a flag. But this here, if this pulls back up towards maybe the 50 and 618, okay, that would give you a what we call an expanding flat. It's still a corrective, have a corrective structure, but of course the details of it is slightly different, and therefore we're kind of expecting a little bit more on the downside after that as well, right? So between the euro and the pound, my personal take is you may want to pay a little bit more attention to the euro simply because of the clarity of the structure, whereas the pound over here you may just want to keep watch. But for me, I prefer a simpler structure like a three-wave flag. Okay. Then in terms of Aussie here will be neutral. Okay, yesterday we kind of expecting a little bit of a corrective pullback, then we can get a buy trade set up, but we didn't get a corrective pullback, so today we're gonna shift it back to neutral, and just give it time and see how the market's gonna react from here. Right now it's not an ideal spot to actually be selling. Okay, simply because we are at the bottom of the channel, right? I mean, this bounce back up, then you wouldn't want to be in the sell. So my take here is, if you want to look for a sell opportunity, wait for the impulsive break to clear off this entire structure area here and then wait for a corrective pullback. Then yes, that will open up a downside opportunity. But until then, the market can still do a crawl here. And if this is crawl naturally, it will be a buy opportunity back up. So be neutral, be patient. Perhaps this one here we need to wait out until end of the week, post NFP, and then we'll come back maybe next week. Then we have the dollar Canadian, right? So dollar Canadian currently is testing around that key area between 1.327 and 1.3305. We do have a very nice little corrective pattern here as an impulse, correction. So the probability is due to the downside, but of course, ideally, we want to see the market starts to push lower for today. Now, we do understand that on Friday, we have both the Canadian labor market data as well as the US NFP. And we are looking at the dollar Canadian, right? So there's a good chance that if you're in this trade like me, likely you just need to be psychologically and mentally prepared. The trade will probably ding dong a little bit all the way until NFP, okay? Because most of the time when we have a high impact news on the later part of the week, then the market would just simply consolidate a little bit, just going into the news, right? So just be a little bit prepared on that. We may continue to see price just ding dong around this area. And of course, ideal situation is the news release and we get a nice little push, right? And then we just manage the position accordingly. Now, if you're not comfortable with that, then of course, if you're already in a trade, you can consider exit first. Then building up into NFP, then you look for a re-entry again using some kind of a breakout entry technique. Okay. Then we have the dollar yen. Dollar yen here just simply remain neutral. We're in a key area. Okay, we do kind of expect some kind of reaction, but we don't really see that right now. There are only two ways that I'm looking at how we can potentially get involved. Right, one is this continue to correctively develop into a crawl. Then I'll be looking for a sell as a breakout with maybe news event. Okay, now the alternative scenario is if I see an impulsive drop following that a correction, then yes, I can look for downside, right? I'm not so keen in the upside. I'm just more interested in looking for sell. Gold, pretty similar to the Aussie dollar kind of structure and situation. So we just remain neutral right now because there are a couple of things that we need to still take a look at how price is going to develop. If this is a crawl, we look for buy. Okay, that would give us a very nice little impulse correction upside. If this decides to bounce back up, then I want to wait for a correction as well to look for upside. And of course, the last situation here is this just do correctively. Then of course, I won't be too keen to sell it either, but I won't be buying it, right? Then this would just mean that I'll give it a little bit more time to see how it develops. Crude oil continue to push a little bit higher, but I'm not interested in the buy naturally because price is already at the top, right? There's no sell either. Okay, to sell it, I want to first see an impulsive drop and then a correction. That I'll take the sell from here. But right now we don't have that yet, so just neutral, patient, wait for it to develop. S&P, likely we're starting that corrective pullback. Okay, we do have our first push down, a second move, and seems like it's developing the third. Now, right now the projection you see over here is a little bit of a shallow correction. That may potentially complete that and another push up. But having moved such a significant push to the upside, there is a good chance we're going to see a deeper corrective pullback, right? So something of this scale you can see is big, right? So this is a little bit tiny. We may then also get, a more complex corrective structure. So don't be overly aggressive and jump into the buy. Now, my take here is if this is indeed the end of a correction, look for a breakout instead of getting at the bottom, right? That will be a bit more conservative and, don't jump into a trade too early. Okay. Other than that, we also have the Euro Pound as a highlight over here, right? So Euro Pound is quite similar to the dollar CAD situation, but of course, this pattern here is not as clean structurally as the dollar Canadian, right? But dollar CAD is kind of testing this area as well, and of course, ideally, we want to see that push down today, right? Because this would be an impulse correction, and then we want to see the move starts going. Okay, so just want to highlight onto this. I personally seldom trade the Euro Pound, right? Simply because it's a cross. I just don't really like it because of the characteristics and the nature of how price tends to develop in this cross. Last one here to highlight, BTC had a little bit of a push up, which is ideal. That's what we've been waiting for. Okay. And of course, this break here seems to be able to break off this high, which gives us a little bit of a double bottom structure break of the neckline. And the next piece over here, we're simply waiting for a corrective pullback and we'll look for the buy naturally. Okay. So just give it a little bit more time, but it's definitely setting up already. So just be a bit more patient and wait for the correction, and then we'll get that buy trade opportunity. So that's all for me for today's video over here. All the best to trading, and I'll see you guys in the next one.